hire? What are your process going to be look like before you get them on paper? And then starting to think through the tech stack and doing something that's good enough for right now. Jay, so we are recording? Okay, good call.
I got it.
Good call. I forgot to hit the button. Sorry about that. So with that, I'm just going to open it up and ask the question, what tech stack are you using now? And even if you think you're not, you still are, because email is a tech stack. So what are your favorite tools, or what tools do you aspire to have, and why?
I found this on the web.
So I'm just going to pick people out at random. So Amy Moffat, you're in the lower left corner. So I'll just maybe tell us a little bit about your company, and then kind of an overview of the tech stack, if you don't mind.
Sure. I work for Intivio, and we provide patient management software to the dental industry. We, during this period, of course, have had quite the interesting situation as dentists are going offline and coming off or online in a rapid pace. So the technology that we are currently using is Zendesk for our ticketing system. Our customer success managers have just started to ease into churn zero. We have a situation where our sales cycle transitions from the sales team into an enablement team, and that enablement team sits within customer success. So the sales cycle actually continues through to the success team before it ends. And so churn zero has been beneficial for being able to track those stages and trigger the right movements during the onboarding and assisting in closing sales. Salesforce is our central tech stack for essentially that data warehouse that feeds into the other two items that we use. Okay. And then Google Sheets has become my friend in this period, because when things happen quickly, I appear to be a spreadsheet person. So a lot of things went into there to track what we were doing from a revenue perspective. Those are the big ones for the organization, without getting into the nitty-gritty of Ring Central, Slack, HubSpot for marketing. Those are all separate things outside that we use as well.
Got it. So two quick follow-up questions. You mentioned Slack. I was going to ask about that. I think maybe it's outside of our discussion now, but I think the internal communication tool is super important. I've used Slack and I love it. And I've been at places that don't use it, and it doesn't work. It's not so good. You talked about HubSpot for your marketing automation. Do you do any type of marketing campaigns to existing clients, or is that strictly for outbound marketing with HubSpot?
We've just started. That's part of where we're trying to mature the customer success team. While we have a mix of success and support on the team, it's still far more reactive than we'd like to be. So we've just started some cycling around product marketing and information through HubSpot out to our existing clients. In particular, when COVID hit, we put together a triage plan to assist our customers depending on where they were financially. Within the dental industry, there was a range of circumstances. Some were able to stay fully open, some stayed open for just emergencies only. And so partnering with them with the right financial approach going forward was a bit tricky. So we were able to segment and use some of what we were doing through HubSpot to get almost an offer type situation to work through what we're doing from a billing perspective through the last couple of months. We also, the need of what they needed to do shifted very quickly. They went from appointment reminders to sending newsletters and emails almost overnight. So we used that particular system to remind of value of product and a bit of an education stream while doing the whole thing. So we're doing that through HubSpot.
Got it. Perfect. And I love the shift into we're using it for starting to use it for communicating to existing customers. So
yeah, that's been a big one.
Cool, thanks. And I'm gonna so a couple things. I don't necessarily want to go around and find out that everybody's got the same tech stack, but Dan, you and I swapped Dan Maldonado. You and I swapped some messages on LinkedIn about this question around tech stack. So I'm curious. how similar or how different is what you're using to what Amy described?
Yeah, great question, and thanks for picking me there. It's interesting for me because I'm going from came up just recently left Procore, which was using like Salesforce, and it's trying to transition from a team that was using a lot of G Suite and Slack, now moving to like a Microsoft Stack and Teams. But for the like, what I was curious about is we're currently essentially going from a historically free solution to paid, and the background on the company is really just labor tracking and compliance in construction tech. So it's been a hell of a time, one, to go to a paid solution during this time.
Mhm.
But I was brought on to kind of help build the CS team and also help on the product development side. And right now, as I mentioned, we're using Hubspot really as that CRM, and also using Basecamp as not only like our way of kind of having projects and message boards internally, but right now as our tracking our user requests, et cetera. And I really want to make the move to like a Jira and like user voice type of scenario, which is why I pose the question. Like obviously right now we're still pretty small and be from like actual onboarding, but just wanted to get a feel for what others are using. So yeah, to kind of summarize, what we're currently using is Basecamp, HubSpot, Teams, and that's more or less what we're using right now.
Got it. Cool. Yeah, and Jay put a good reminder out in the chat. And guys, bear with me because this is my first time of doing this. So do raise your hand if you've got something to share. And Casey, I'm going to transition to you because I saw your comment in the chat. You guys didn't see it. Casey said, "Love HubSpot for current client communications, email, workflows, tasks, everything." So kind of a two-part question. Do you also use the CRM? And then, I guess three-part. If you don't, what is your CRM or client and ticket tracking? And then how do you find the integration between whatever that tool is in HubSpot?
So complicated answer to a very complicated question. We're a company that acquired other companies and then merged together. So I'm one of the acquired brands now kind of sucked into the larger company that has all kinds of tech, but my team had HubSpot previously, and I think that's where my love for it comes. We do still use it for primarily for marketing campaigns, but also for the entire sales cycle. So totally separate from marketing, outbound, lead gen, once you do have an interaction with a lead, that's tracked through your deals. Your deals can track absolutely everything. And when that deal is closed, it can automatically trigger workflows. So that workflow is down to a welcome that very first time that account is signed, all the way to 1 week, 1 month, triggered transaction with exactly what a CS rep should be doing at that point in time of that customer journey. Is it 6 months? Great. What should I be asking during this call? And all that is triggered by a task. And then also an email template that partners with that. So I can complete that task, assign it to a rep, reassign it, push it out into the future, change the date. So it's really targeted interactions based on a certain point in time and certain things that we should be checking for account health at that point in time. So a brand new baby rep who is brand new and hasn't even had a chance to learn the product yet could look at that task and at least ask intelligent conversations based on what is pre-built right into there. So all of that connects, of course, to our email system. I also love Intercom. So Intercom is our chat.
Sure.
So on the support side, I'm chatting in, I have a problem that links right to our help desk. All of that is integrated to HubSpot. So in theory, I could look up any account and see problems that came in through Intercom and healthy conversations with the CS side.
So that's great that you're extending it to really managing your customer care through the beginning of the cycle and all that. That's a great use case that I don't think I've ever heard anybody do of how to coach the baby CSM, as you referred to it. So, and I'm going to use that as kind of a pivot point. Sonia, I think it was you that said, what was your comment about onboarding? You use Asana, and let me ask a clarifying. I'm going to ask you to comment more on that. But were you thinking of onboarding customers, onboarding new CSMs and sellers, or both?
Oh, hello everyone. Yeah, we use Asana for onboarding our customers. We went live with it back in September, and we've had some success, but where it really seems to be broken is the lack of integrations, or the ability to integrate with. We have like a bespoke CRM, and so what it feels like at the moment is the process is a bit broken because you're having to go to different places to update information. But yeah, I was just interested to see what everyone else is doing, using from an onboarding perspective, because what I would really like to do, and I'm looking at the moment, is like, okay, what do we get next? Do we swap out our internal CRM for like an off-the-shelf product, or do we actually look to get a customer success tool and just keep our CRM for like provisioning and some other things? Yeah, so our main problem at the moment really is like integration and all these touch points not kind of working together.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was talking to somebody about it this morning, that so many companies have like this technology, that, and then you're bouncing back and forth between login to login to login. So I think integration is key. So I'm going to turn the question back to the group. Anybody that is thinking about onboarding in a different way, what tools are you using, or are you using one of your existing products? One of your existing tech stack pieces?
No one's onboarding.
Right now for our team, we have a customer success and implementation team of 6. And today we're using TaskRay, which is relatively light if you are able to kind of navigate the process builder side of Salesforce. But it's been really great because it has allowed us to have a really consistent handoff from the actual sales side of it, and everything centralized in the actual TaskRay system. And that's actually, we moved that out, and it is now managing our proactive lifecycle for our CSMs as well. And that's been really great for it all being centralized.
It feels like everything always comes back to Salesforce being in the middle, which I'm kind of like against. I don't know why.
Yeah. Pros and cons. It's very my current company, 62-person company, and we use Salesforce, and it's incredibly heavyweight, but it offers us the option for a lot of integration. So there is kind of that trade-off. So, Boaz, based on your comments earlier, when you asked about 20 million pre or post COVID, I infer that you're sort of right on that cusp of early and late stage startups. So I'm curious, does your two-part question, does your tech stack differ from what other people have described? And second of all, are you solving different business problems than you think you were when you were, half the size of your current company?
So I'm 7 weeks in, talk about timing to join a company.
Yeah.
And my tech stack has almost nothing right now. It's all the work that we're trying to build. I can tell you that as we do the evaluation right now, some of what people already talked, Casey and others, are fundamentals. CRM has to be at the center of integrations, otherwise you lose track of data. We use Salesforce, we'll probably continue to use Salesforce. I'm a big believer of a dedicated tool for onboarding, because there's a lot that you can do if you have a dedicated tool that you can control. You can build it in Salesforce, you can build it in Jira, you can build it in other tools that other teams are using for their core. But my personal belief is that it's such a critical process. You want to own that start to finish and share data via integration with the other tools that need it, but have a tool that's dedicated to that. So we are evaluating right now some of the main customer success management platforms for that. And as we are evaluating that, we're thinking about an LMS solution that we can tag on to the onboarding process, you know, the likes of Litmos, Skilljar, Mindflare, you know, and the like. Because again, I want to control the onboarding experience and not just, you know, send people to YouTube, which is the low cost option, and a lot of people do. And we're looking at using a scheduler like Schedule Once or Calendly or whatever to create more self-service scheduling and streamline the process of onboarding. We operate in the SMB space. I'm looking forward to next week's discussion about SMBs. So, you know, my mindset is I need to be able to onboard 1,000 customers a month. And when you think about that kind of problem, when you think about onboarding 1,000 customers a month, every hour that you save in the onboarding process for a customer is 1,000 hours a month. 1,000 hours a month is 6 to 7 people. So the magnitude of the impact on your team, even if you put aside the customer experience, is humongous. So self-service, streamline of operations, you know, integrations in the background are the way we think about it.
Great. So I have a comment. Calendly is a great tool. We started having our customer support team use it, and it stopped all the back and forth with the customer of, hey, are you available at this time, and all that. It's like, here's my calendar, pick a time. And then they would block out their working times and all that, and customers would book a slot with them. The free version, I use it all the time. It's a fantastic product, and if you're not familiar with it, you really should be. So
yeah. So one other comment. We use another tool right now, and we're doing the evaluation. But one of the nice tips there is the way, again, we are designing the process right now. But the way we're going to do it is we're going to require the salespeople to enable the link for that scheduling to customers up front.
Yeah.
And that link is for the entire team's capacity. Once you do the initial call with a specific person who does the onboarding, the continuation of the conversation, scheduling the next conversation, is with a link to that individual schedule. And you're able in Calendly and in Schedule Ones or other tools to have both a team calendar and an individual calendar. So we can use
nice.
both of them, which is kind of a nice way to start with, hey, I don't care who the first person that takes this, whoever is available, but once I started, I want to continue with that person and not have a team calendar.
Great. So 2 comments. So Dan Maldonado made a great comment in the chat. HubSpot supports that as well. And HubSpot's great if you're using it for you know, like measuring customer engagement and lead generation and stuff like that, because it, you know, sort of counts that as part of the scoring, and it's all built into there in a nice, neat little package. So if you are a HubSpot shop, that's a great product. Chris, I'm going to lean in. Chris Mitchell, I'm going to lean into your question. I've been waiting for somebody to mention their own products, and then you added David Jackson. So I guess between the two of you, tell us more about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dave made the comment initially about you must use your own product in the onboarding process. And absolutely, I mean, the more we can put into our own products, the better, absolutely, 100%. When I was at On24, which is a webcasting and digital engagement platform, that became a huge part of the onboarding process. So within that, we built a knowledge center, and all of the content was around the webcast platform itself. So a lot of that interaction with our customers during the onboarding process was through self-learning or scheduled learning or dedicated one-to-one learning, but all via webcast solutions. We then built knowledge portals around as well for all of that content to sit. With the enterprise customers that have their own dedicated portal that was purely for that enterprise customer, down the smaller end of the customer scale with the SMB, then they'd use shared portals and things like that. So I think there's a lot, and I'm sure Dave can expand further on his thinking around product-led success and how to integrate that in the onboarding process. But the more you can integrate your own products into your onboarding process, obviously the better it's going to feel for how people start to adopt what you're doing, and they'll learn from that how to actually use your product as well. So,
got it. Thanks, Dave. Sorry, Dave or David, I don't know, but can you talk more about what Chris sort of led you into?
Yeah, thanks for that, Chris. Thanks for the setup. I'm a bit of an oddball. I started a SaaS company before all the tools were around. I started a SaaS company in 2000. And I put my first CSM in 2005. The thing is, when I started a SaaS company, I think most founders start a SaaS company because they figured out how they can use a product to help solve a problem. And I think if you look at what some of the really interesting companies doing now, people like Notion and that sort, they're actually putting more and more of the success capability into the product itself. So for example, if you sign up for Notion, the first thing you get when you sign up is a few questions about what's your role, what's your use case, what goals are you trying to achieve? And based on how you answer that, they then set the product up in a certain way for you and present you with certain piece of information. And I just think that we're missing a trick. We're all investing in tools, and maybe what we should do is investing in our own products.
Can I jump in here? I've had my hand raised. Maybe you didn't see it.
Oh yeah, no, sorry, absolutely, Kathleen.
No, it's totally fine. I'm trying to not talk so much because I'm an extreme extrovert. It's a challenge. I love a lot of the tools, and if you look in the chat, I put forth a lot of different ideas, but I think at the end of the day, investing in your own products, that's key. You have to know how to use your product better than your customers. Otherwise, how are you going to teach them anyway? And when it comes to buying tools for your organization, if you're in a place of power, you have to think about the ROI that is involved, because if the tool is not giving you ROI, that's money that you could be spending on marketing, on onboarding, on retention efforts. So you got to have, if you're going to buy a tool, I think I've worked at very small companies, including Folion, the one that I, put forth as a digital content creation platform that's great for sharing digital brochures and whatnot. If anyone needs a discount, let me know. They kind of owe me some favors over there. I don't work there now. I started a company. The one thing I wanted to mention as well is, all the companies I've worked with a lot of SaaS companies, we don't really get involved with social media at all. And as people who, we're in touch with customers, it doesn't make sense. I think that it's really important that perhaps moving forward that CSM professionals are more involved with marketing, especially when it comes to social media. Someone mentioned YouTube earlier. I thought that was great, but it's something that I challenge all of you to think more about. How are you using social media to reach your customers? Are you using it? There's often a disconnect between marketing and CSMs about this, but I think that is going to have to change, especially seeing the power of social media right now.
Yeah, agreed. And I think there's two mistakes I see early stage companies making. One is their social media presence is all about, here's our features, or here's our new service pack, or whatever. Not, here's what your company is struggling with, which is work at home. Let us give you 10 top tips. So you need to be able to advertise without selling. And then the second point is, I 100% agree that it's too much of the, there's too little of having CSM involvement. So
yeah, and one thing, if you don't mind me, just one
sure.
piggybacking idea is that in general, especially because I come from a sales background, which is pretty rare in the CS world because we tend to be exact opposite, but we need to use our abilities and our relationship with our customers to help sales. So getting testimonials, those are going to be the things that you can do email outreach with. It's something you can do a client newsletter once a month to feature what clients are doing depending on the nature of your business. I feel like if we start breaking down those silos that naturally happen and start realizing the full value for the customer, that's where the magic happens.
Got it. Cool. So I don't, my apologies again, I don't always see when hands are raised. Fortunately, Jay does, and he lets me know. Andreas, you had your hand raised?
Yes. Actually, on two comments. So it's been a while ago, but I mean, that I raised my hand. General technologies, since I'm a consultant, so I see more companies kind of than in a dedicated role. And I've seen two cases where the company actually churned out of a customer success platform because I think it was too early for them, and they were hoping that the technology would fix the problems that they had getting their processes and everything done. I just posted something in the community there too. It's like, well, you can only automate garbage in, garbage out if you don't know what you're really doing.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to add this as a note, to not have expectations that the technology by itself, for whatever reason, will solve your problems. You need to know what your goals are and what you want to get out of it. It should be a no-brainer, but again, I've seen it kind of way too often, especially in the early stages. And then the CS team has kind of that burnt finger syndrome when I say, well, now that we've established kind of a good baseline of what we're doing, how about automation? It's like, no, that's like a bad word for us. So that's one comment. And the other comment I wanted to make, Boaz left already, unfortunately, and I put a little thing in the chat, is a self-service community, in particular for onboarding. So a dedicated group there kind of for the early adopters, not so much the mature customers, and the curriculum there that they can go through self-paced. That provides links to all the other content that you have as well. And that was also in the case of a SMB platform. So the same economic equation that Boaz put out applies. Any minute less that you need to spend on one of your SMB customers goes straight to the bottom line.
Exactly. And I love your point. And I'm going to circle back to your first point about starting with the tech stack versus starting with the documented processes. I want to come back to that. Alex, you had your hand up, and then Lauren, I'm going to, depending on time and all that, I want to put you on the spot because I have a specific question for you. But Alex, you had your hand up?
Yeah, so I'm a self-diagnosed Salesforce fanboy, so I'm acknowledging my bias immediately. But I think the point that's been made around, I've been with two scale-ups building customer success teams, kind of from 1 to 20, so to speak, and we never procured. I think I pissed a few CS system vendors off by what they might feel like is leading them on, but we've never actually signed a check for any CS software.
Yeah.
And part of the reason is, I think, yes, there's a point about you need to know your process first, and you can get a system, but they're going to show up and say, hey, what are your processes to implement in this system? Right. So that point is well taken from Andreas. I think also the benefit that's not particularly, I think Tyler mentioned system fatigue. We use Salesforce for everything, not because it can nail every requirement with such, depth, but because it unifies all of our data out of the box.
Right.
So I know when a customer's case management data has, case engagements dropped. I know when they stop logging into our Salesforce community. I know when they respond to our CSAT survey via Salesforce surveys. We also use Pardot actually, so I know when they open our customer marketing emails. And that to me is what CS software is offering, is a unification of your data from a bunch of disparate sources. But if you don't have that problem, having just a unification of your data to feed into almost like a home-built health scoring engine, it's already there. So for us, the flexibility of having everything in one stack was key, which is why we haven't procured something extra, because it sits on top. Just really quickly, I'll also say that one of the other challenges you have with a separate systems is you don't connect back to the system of record for your business. So it's all well and good. You have a system as a CS team to say, okay, I know my customer health backwards and forwards, but if it's not on the dashboard that's getting presented at the board meeting, where is it?
So
which I think is another point.
It's a great point, and I've used the saying for 1 year. You have to have one pane of glass to look through.
Sure.
I don't care where the data resides. You do ultimately have to decide that one of your systems is a system of record, and it's like, you know, it's like Lord of the Rings. It's the one system that will unify them all, but they all have to be integrated. So I do want to circle back. So I think we got about 12 minutes left, but I want to circle back to that thing about process before tool. Lauren, I'm going to come to you with my question, because I know you've been in a variety of different companies in, you know, kind of a coaching advisory capacity, and seen a lot about what's working, not working. So in the SMB, or the early stage startup phase that we're talking about, what parts of the tech stack have you seen work, not work? And then just more generically, what flaws or what errors do companies make of that size when they're selecting their tech stack?
I'm like you, Jim. I'm not a loyalist to any specific tool, because I've seen the best tools be used poorly, and kind of weaker tools just leveraged well. I am with Alex. I think I favor centralization earlier, and this is why. So the second part of your question was kind of what missteps do I see when I'm evaluating both, you know, opportunities as a CS leader to enter a business or an opportunity to consult or advise. A key question I found that can be really insightful on how the operation is working today is, how many places do you need to look to understand where a customer is and how healthy they are?
Yep.
You know, your maturity on that factor can tell you so much about the operation. Almost, most importantly, how well does the rest of the business understand the customer and their journey and their status and their health, and across the whole customer base? Because one experience I had was, I asked that question, you know, how many places do you need to look to prepare for a QBR? We counted 12. And this was a business that had 150 customers and 2 CSMs. And that pointed to so many operational challenges that, yes, impacted our customers, because we moved much slower for them than we could have and should have, but also it pointed to just a misalignment with the rest of the business, because even to answer a simple question for the founders on how's this customer doing, or what does this segment look like, took a day of research and analysis, and it was easy to poke holes in. We didn't have good data or a screen, you know, one chart to point to. So for that reason, to kind of Band-Aid, you know, have a quick solution at my last company where we were using Salesforce but didn't have enough admin muscle to like get the 360-degree view in Salesforce, I bought Vitally. They had a really quick sales cycle, a really easy implementation, good, generous pricing. They're really young, you know, so that's a deal. And that I thought was a good, at least medium-term bridge between our Salesforce CRM, you know, commercial data and the product, the insight we could get from the product side. It was much easier for our product to send data to Vitally for some reason than it would have been to get that in Salesforce to build up a health score in there.
Very cool. A couple things. Somebody said in the chat, Lauren, that's a great, like, how many systems do you have to go to? It's a great, simple question. It's going to be taken back to the leadership meeting. So I'm interested next week. Sorry, I don't know the name because it's just a shortened name, but
that's
whoever
me.
that was, sorry.
Me.
Oh yeah. Hey, how are you? But great comment. And actually give us a little bit more behind that. What's your thinking process?
Yeah, my name is Gabriel. I have to update my Zoom name, but yeah, I work for a startup that's been around probably like 5 or 6 years, but the customer success aspect of it has been around 6 months, which is that's how long I've been with them. So I have 1,000 clients, and it's me, and I have 2 agents that support me. So I'm trying to push this vision of customer success with upper management and leadership, and I just completely agree that we have Salesforce, and we have some internal tools, and we have Tableau, And there's so many different places that you have to go to Skylar to build a good client health score. And when you have a small team, you need to have that centralized and just quick, you know, what gives me the best at a glance view of where this, we service healthcare facilities, of where this healthcare facility is and how I can prioritize my outreach. Because when there's only 3 of us and 2 of them are agents, so, you know, it's, there's certain things that you can't do. I really need to be able to not spend a lot of time planning and just executing.
Right.
So absolutely just agree with everything you were saying there, Lauren. Yeah, that's my piece on it.
Yeah. And in terms of a single, you know, system to go to, I think, or a system of record, I think there's another important part to it. And Tyler, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot. I believe you were the one that said this in the chat. And I'm going to say it in a different way, but if it's not in Salesforce or it's not in, you know, pick your CRM, it didn't happen, which is my philosophy. Well, so it sounds like that's something you've had to struggle with in the past, that we use the system of record for a reason and we don't track stuff outside of it. Can you kind of talk about that journey? Is Tyler in the house?
We might have lost him.
Looks like we lost him.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, fair enough. So let me jump to the other question I was going to ask. This goes back to something that that Andreas said. Either raise your hand, put in the chat, or just speak up. But who has had that where you've acquired a tool before you have your processes documented, and kind of what was the fallout from that?
I can talk about that. And then, if that's okay. So really quickly, I know we don't have a lot of time and other people want to share, but I came on to a company where success was brand new, similar to what Gabriel just said, about around for 5 years. But once they established a good customer load, they realized that they need to implement a success, some sort of success process. So I've been brought on to basically hire and lead the success team. I got a tool that is mediocre. Especially for our needs. We're an on-prem solution. We're not SaaS. We don't get data. Our metrics are very different. We don't get live metrics of usage. We have to do it a little different way. And because we have a mediocre tool, and most CRMs and most tools are geared towards more SaaS and automatic integration for metrics, I have to basically sort of customize what I need, and that actually leads to a larger tool stack. Like Lauren said, sometimes you have like 12 different places, but sometimes when you have, you know, you come into a company that just doesn't have everything that you need, it leads to more and more tools rather than looking for an alternate. We did find an alternate. COVID came, there's a freeze, but not all tools are meant for every SaaS, and certainly not all tools are meant for every customer success team when you're not a SaaS.
Yep. I actually come from a mostly on-prem environment, so it'd be interesting to have a chat. I
could give a whole session on what on-prem could teach for SaaS.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, agreed. Who was it? David Jackson, you said something about when I asked about leading with process first technology, you said the 2 are iterative. Do you mind, and we just got the signal, we got about 5 minutes left, but David, do you mind talking a little bit more about that?
I think there's a school of thought that says what you do is you figure out your processes and then you build your systems and then it all operates. My experience is it's rarely like that. You should have a view about what you're trying to achieve, but I think when you're picking a system, the key thing is not does it allow me to do what I currently do, but have I got a view of what I need looking forward? Is it flexible? Is it integrated? What's its not what its roadmap looks like, but what's the history of that company in bringing new ideas to market? Because I can guarantee you that in 6 months' time, what we need in terms of process will be slightly different to what we've got now. and what we need in 12 months' time will be even more different, and what we need in 2 years' time might be completely different.
Yep. Agreed.
So it's not about buying a product for what you need now. It's about saying, what's this company's track record look like, and does it give me confidence that as I develop, they're going to be able to support me.
Yeah, and the challenge, yes, and the challenge with that is, if you're a 3-person company, but you've got a very reasonable plan that in 4 years through acquisition or whatever, you're going to be a 300-person company. You don't want to buy Salesforce now because it's going to scale for your future. But that's like buying your 10-year-old pants with a 36-inch inseam. It just like they're it's not going to fit them for a while.
Yeah. Except Salesforce, it's not like pants. You can't. We started using Salesforce when we were 4 people.
Interesting.
And we just grew with it, and it grew with us. I mean, we were quite lucky because we knew them well. We were their first European software partner, so we got quite close to them. So it's, if you pick something purely on what it allows you to do now, I think you're missing a trick.
Yeah, agreed. You have to look to the future, and your point about it being iterative, because there's a certain point as a customer success team where you're giving deep love and care to every customer, and then you have to segment. So how does that tool grow with you in that process of maturing as a company and maturing your processes? That's what I got out of what you said.
Yeah.
So yeah, good. Jay, just quick time check. I think we're down to about 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think we got just a couple minutes before Jeff will pull us back.
Yep.
So
okay,
probably get everybody's closing thoughts.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts? And Alex, I do agree with you that being a Salesforce fanboy or fangirl is definitely contagious. So anyway.
In hindsight, it's probably not the right joke to make right now. So that was
good.
I didn't think about it until you said it out loud. My mistake.
No, all good. They're not recording this, so don't even worry about it. So we got the 60-second warning. Thanks everybody for a great discussion. I do want to carry on some form of a discussion about tech stack and pros and cons in the community. And Jay, I have a couple ideas for you about maybe doing some special interest groups around early stage SaaS for the community. But thanks everybody. Appreciate your patience with my, me having training wheels on, and good discussion.
You're awesome, Jim.
Back at you,
for everybody.
Thanks.
I just threw up a quick poll for everybody. If you can see that, hopefully, yes, you can. We're just trying to gauge interest next week in terms of Pulse Everywhere and see who might be attending, see if we adjust the call at all. So just take a quick minute to answer that. And then in the meantime, I'm going to try and call on a couple people right here before we end. It seems like I hopped into both rooms, and it seems like there was some good conversation going. So maybe from the late stage conversation, one person I'm thinking of is maybe Ron Baumert. Are you here?
I am. Happy Thursday.
Awesome. Ron, do you want to maybe give us one takeaway, one action item? What did you take away that was interesting from the conversation in late stage, which was around kind of success plans?
Yeah, several things. One is, I think, and I forget who said it, but it was kind of, I think it was the gentleman from Ring Central. Big companies, small companies are all still wrestling with this, and it's not, you're never there, you're never done. And there's never kind of like, I've arrived at a successful success plan implementation. So I think that was the first takeaway, is like, there's always room for improvement and always iterating. The second takeaway is that systematically it seems like it's kind of pretty sporadic or spread out as far as all the map on who's doing it systematically versus spreadsheets versus some other type of system. So I think that's, again, kind of representative of there's always room for improvement and making it more operationalized. And I think those are my top 2 takeaways. I'm between gigs right now, so all this is just fodder for my next gig on how to make this happen. But again, it's most organizations don't have it dialed in yet. And I think customers are still very much looking for their CS team to guide them consultatively on what their success should look like. And some have it, I guess that's the other thing, is some companies, some customers have more defined understanding what their success looks like, and some don't. And that's where CS comes into play.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Maybe, hey, Dan Maldonado, I see you on my video here. I think you might have been in room one or kind of early stage where they were talking about technology, if I'm right. You want to share maybe your takeaway and kind of what you took out of that conversation?
Yeah, my biggest takeaway, and I'm going from a relatively bigger company to now very small and pretty much the first CS rep. So the biggest thing, and for me, was even if I'm currently using either a few different softwares in my tech stack, as we mature and grow as a CS org, and also just into a bigger company, just to ensure that all the platforms we end up using, if it's multiple or if it's one, they're just interconnected as much as possible, just so that there's just easier to not only work efficiently internally, but also service the customer.
Yeah, that's one thing we hear often in conversations that we've been having is, all of a sudden you've got 5 or 6 different systems and nobody knows what's the truth and where does the actual, what's the source come from? The source data, I think, is the big question. So certainly seems like something tangible to take away. What are you using multiple systems now, Dan, for that process? Or are you still thinking about implementing systems? Kind of where are you along that journey?
We were really using Hubspot primarily from sales to marketing to CS, and really in the process right now of trying to figure out kind of where we go with it. If we stick with them, try to find a CS specific platform, but then on top of that, other things like a customer feedback form, et cetera. I just want to make sure it all ties back into the CRM. So just kind of personally looking into all the options right now.
Awesome. Jim Jones, you want to come off mute? I know you led the session in there, but curious if you had any takeaways just from kind of first breakout room like this, and if there's anything that you brought out of the conversation.
Yeah, a couple of things. There was remarkable convergence on 2 parts of the tech stack. One was a lot of companies using HubSpot and using it for some pretty innovative ways like customer and new CSM onboarding. The second thing, even for smaller companies, 3, 5, 10 employees, Salesforce does appear to be a pretty viable option. I'd always seen it as super heavyweight and really, not until you get to the 50 to 100 employees, but a lot of companies making very effective use out of it. The one other thing that there was general agreement on is your CSMs and your executives need one pane of glass to look through. Having 12 tools to track customer health and all that kind of stuff, not a winning strategy. So the fewer systems and the more they're integrated, the easier it is to get a 360 point of view on your customers.
Awesome. Appreciate that. And then maybe Nils, I know you were in the late stage talking about success planning. Do you want to come off of mute and maybe give us just a couple of takeaways that you took out of that conversation?
Absolutely, and to add to Jim's point, less is more. always found that to be the case. So on the success planning front, we talked there were a lot of questions, right? How do we do this? How do we do it in conjunction with the customer? What are best practices as far as operationalizing the success plan? What are some of the key things to watch out for? Really incredible questions that everybody has struggled with. And one of the most interesting things to me was that the resounding asset, or the thing that is used predominantly the most, is either a spreadsheet or a doc, right? That's it. It's a template, it's a structure, it's something to come to the table with. Even in a gigantic organization, that's okay. I think over time, as companies progress and as many of the other things get addressed and it's time to operationalize this, then there's room to go to the nth degree with a specific platform designed for this. But in the meantime, even if you're in the early stage or the late stage, it just doesn't matter. What's important is that the content of that success plan is mutually agreed upon with the customer, and you can use it as a cornerstone of your work with them. And I thought that was really interesting just to hear the spectrum of how many people are using it in that kind of way.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, we always like to end these things on time, be respectful of the time you guys spend with us. So appreciate everybody's contribution. Hopefully you enjoyed the breakout kind of early and late stage today. Next week, we're going to try and do a breakout, 2 breakouts again. And we're going to try and do that between the type of customers you serve. So one conversation might lean heavily towards kind of SMB, one might lean more heavily towards enterprise. Based off of the poll results, looks like about 70% of this audience is going to attend Pulse Everywhere for Gainsight. So we might change the time. So we'll keep you guys updated on how we potentially adjust there. And then I know a lot of you are throwing your LinkedIn profiles into the chat. So we're trying to find a creative way as well to try and get kind of everybody's LinkedIn profile and email addresses out so that you guys all can start connecting via those platforms as well. So hopefully we'll have an update on that early next week as we try and find a creative solution rather than just sending everybody, 700 plus LinkedIn profiles. We're trying to find a creative way to do that. So be on the lookout for that. But again, appreciate everybody coming today. Hopefully you got some takeaways, and we'll see you guys here again soon.
Great stuff. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Good to see you all.
Thanks, everybody. Bye. See you.
Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.